Welcome back everyone to more Hearts of Iron 4. And this time we're gonna be actually doing something different because I'm actually recording this audio after playing. Because yeah, earlier I was kind of ill the last few days, so I couldn't really, commentate while I was playing, but I still kind of wanted to get, advance the plot as it may. So right now I am declaring war on the Union of Britain. And as you can see, I'm just kind of landing my guys, and I asked for military access from the Entente, and they gave it to me. So, well, rather the Canadian Commonwealth, and they gave to me military access. So I'm like, oh well, I'll just come in and help. It's right now basically they've invaded the Scottish Highlands, and so I'm gonna be following up on that. Usually I would have tried obviously to invade the Isles first, Orkney and Shetland, because that's where my claims are, but because they were already taken by the Mitteleuropans, I couldn't really do that. So my plan is to just kind of hold the line in the Scottish Highlands, because I'm guessing that the Brits have a lot of men that are going to be charging in and trying to throw us back into the sea. And then once I have an opportunity to advance, I'm going to be, as you can see, naval invading into the rear and trying to get some encirclements set up, which should be good enough to kind of destroy their army. Because the main weakness of Britain, is obviously the fact that, like, there's not a lot of provinces in Britain itself, so it's easy to encircle by just naval invasions. And because the Entente so gracefully, and Mitteleuropa, so gracefully destroyed the international fleets, we are in a good position to do that, because our measly fleet doesn't really have that much of a problem in supporting our ground landings. And so you can see that the situation at the front is pretty much as I envisioned. There's a lot of Brits coming in to try to throw back the Entente forces, but thanks to our reinforcements, they're going to be able to hold quite easily, especially also because there's some very good defensive terrain around there. And right now, I try to invade there, but there's a random division that's actually protecting the coastline there, so I'm like, nah, no thanks. And I turn back, once I figure out how, turn back to the Isle of Man. And then, as you can see, there's something that's holding up that invasion. Still not quite sure what it was, but probably the naval zone not being properly patrolled or something like that. So because of that, I decided to focus on the ground portion instead of just being defensive. I'm actually advancing a little bit whenever I can, and just trying to get as much territory as possible. And in that, we're helped by the fact that the Brits are also kind of busied up in a lot of different fronts, not just in the Northern Highlands. As you can see, they're being invaded in the south as well. Although they did manage to retake London from, I believe it was Canada that took it earlier on. I'm not sure what I'm doing right now. I'm just, trying to get a different naval invasion set up, but kind of failing at it. Yeah, because I wanted to enter that province that's in between Glasgow and Rosyth, the one with the big arrow just charging through it, because I thought it would be unguarded, and because, as you can see, it's like the pin that's holding that whole salient together, the salient where the enemy forces are. Oh yeah, and I saw that the problem was patrolling naval zones. The salient that's over here, north of Rosyth, goes and juts straight into the Highlands, because that's where most of the British units are. And of course, the AI not really knowing when to attack or not is really helpful, because it attacks and it kind of destroys all their organization, even though it had no chance of actually winning. So that's pretty good for us, obviously. I decided to go for field hospitals, even though I don't really have the capacity to produce trucks. Because field hospitals, of course, are very strong whenever you are lacking manpower, as we are. So eventually, if I can get those out, it should be a very, very good help. And right now, something made the Brits redeploy a lot of men. As you can see, earlier on, they had like about 40 divisions at the border, and now they have about 20. Or I should say it's at the front lines. So that allows me an opportunity to just kind of attack into some weak spots, as you can see. And because of that, the Canadians also decide to advance, which is going to be very helpful because it is going to both distract enemy forces and help in pushing them back. And then I use the naval invasion as a way to get across, as you can see, and I do get, this time, a landing. So I'm in a pretty decent position to encircle all those divisions to the west, as you can see, of Glasgow. And then I'm also pushing in to encircle some more units north of Rosef. So their whole army is in a very precarious spot at this point because of their kind of reckless offensive that they you know, I have no idea. I have no idea what I wanted to say. Yeah, basically now their army is going to get encircled and die. So a lot of their forces are now running sort of south of Edinburgh. I'm trying to stop them, as you can see, by attacking them at Rosef, but it's not going to be enough because they're already retreating, and so they'll run south. However, I do manage to encircle those 4 or 5 divisions west of, or rather south of Glasgow. Also encircled some divisions north of Rosef. Now I'm going to send in some guys to finish them off, and that 12 to 14, yeah, 14 division stack is running for the hills, or I guess down the hills, because they're running to the plains, and you know, just kind of trying to chase them. Right now, as you can see, these 3 infantry divisions are in a very good spot to cut them off, and if they can take Newcastle, they're basically going to destroy the British army, and they do manage to do that. Perfect. So that not only traps the 14 divisions that we were talking about, but also some 5 more divisions to the west. So that's basically the entire force that was facing us, completely gone. And yeah, that's basically going to mean the end of Britain, because as you can see, the Belgians also are coming through in Hull, right to, you know, the southeast of the screen. And there's also some more Entente naval invasions happening down south, and more Mitteleuropa naval invasions also. So the loss of that army is basically going to mean the end of the UOB. I have no idea what I'm thinking about right now, because I'm clearly trying to plan something, but I have no clue. Perhaps I should skip this. I have no idea what I'm doing. Okay, seems like I've made up my mind. So there goes all those divisions, and I'm just trying to, you know, force my way into that, like, gap. There's going to be some annoying things happening with the way the front line is working right now, because of areas where I have military access and areas where I don't. Like right now, I'm thinking that Liverpool is like part of the Dominion of Canada, or rather, the occupation of the Dominion of Canada, because, well, the color is that, but it's actually the Indians. So it's actually the Dominion of India. And so that's kind of a problem, because I don't have military access for them. And that's gonna mean that my random, like, AI frontline control is gonna just decide, oh, hey, I'm gonna put 14 divisions at the Belgian border, because those Belgians are a threat. And yeah, just kind of diminishing the speed of my offensive through the UOB territory, just kind of annoying. So now their capital is Birmingham, because the Germans took London. And now I'm just trying to charge through and take as much territory as possible, just to improve my war score for the peace deal, so that I can, you know, have more of an impact, more territory. And it looks like I've got some more derpness, so let's actually skip that. And yeah, basically, now I got military access through the Belgians and the Indians as well. So at least my front line is like workable. Random capitulations. And now it's just a matter of time and who gets to where first. Who gets what. Because the UOB is definitely on its last, you know, remaining. Yep, there we are. So we took it out. And they've still got some pockets of resistance, but nothing really too major. As you can see, we didn't really get assigned a lot of territory in the peace deal, but, or rather in the capitulation partition, but soon enough we're gonna get our revenge, I assure you. And right now there's just weird things happening. And see, I actually have military access through the Belgians, but not the Germans. So right now it's considering all my army as exiled. And I don't really quite realize that, because I was thinking that I did have access for the Germans, because I just kind of like associate Germany with Mitteleuropa. And so right now I'm like, oh, that's the problem. And so yeah, what I also wanted to do now was, yeah, finish off those pockets and then invade France, because France is still fighting, doing quite well against the Germans considering the situation. So I need to help out the AI in that regard. And there we are. I wonder. So right now, I'm gonna switch my fleet to the English Channel, because of course I need to protect the landings. And I get that. I think that's a heavy cruiser, because I need it for national focus, you'll see later. And now I'm just gonna derp around with naval invasions. I'm actually like really mad, because the way the controls work for naval invasions are actually like, oh god, it's so counterintuitive. Because right now what's happening is that I'm trying to assign these divisions to the naval invasion, right? And it's not working because it's 17 divisions and my naval invasion limit is 10. But what, you know, and I knew that I couldn't put all of my dudes in a naval invasion right now, because I didn't have the limit. But what I thought would happen was it would just assign the maximum number. Like, you know, in any, like, game ever, whenever you're, like, going above a limit, what it does is just, it assigns it up to the limit. And now I see, oh wait, it's just a derp. So now I have to just kind of work out how it's gonna happen. Yeah, I go down here. I'm like, really? That's what's happening? And so I have to like manually assign things. And oh look, there's gonna be even more retarded things happening soon enough. I mean, I could skip all of this, but it's just hilarious because it's retarded. So here I'm like, okay, so you're the guy that's gonna make the invasion. My plan is to encircle Cherbourg, okay? So I'm like, from one port, I'm gonna go sort of east, you know, in the actual historical Normandy landing site. I guess that would be Omaha Beach. And then I'm gonna have a guy west of Cherbourg. And I'm like, why are you not working? So apparently I couldn't just simply switch them from one naval invasion to another. I had to first deassign them from the order and then reassign them to another naval invasion instead of simply just, you know, doing the one click. So lovely controls, lovely user interface as always for Hearts of Iron 4. There's some random naval battles, but that's really not that big of a problem. And so like that's really the strongest way of making a naval invasion in France, in my opinion. Either that or going for Brest, But with Cherbourg, it's better because you get the encirclement on the port, which is quite good. And as you can see, the incredible Ukrainian Marines just destroy, Ukrainian Space Marines just destroyed anything and everything that was defending. I think that was Le Havre? I think that port is Le Havre. Not 100% on that. So I get the light cruiser construction, which is going to give me some free light cruisers eventually. With the 1936 fleet plan in 1940. And so now I need the model 1936 Panzerskip. For that, I need the tier 2 heavy cruiser that I'm researching. And now I get the Nortra ship to get the extra convoys as always. And now there's some weird shit happening in Spain because Spain declared war on Portugal, Carlos Spain. So of course that's a terrible idea because Portugal decided to join the Entente, and you know the Australians are in Gibraltar, which is pretty derp. And right now I'm just waiting for the invasion to plan. I mean, someone could have told all those American and British generals when they were planning D-Day that they just needed to, you know, get a bunch of guys, plan around for 35 days, and I don't know, just put the ships on the ground. That's all they needed to do to win the war. I don't know, the naval invasion system is kind of retarded. So right now I'm just putting in my submarines on the two sides just to make sure that there's no, like, cheeky-breaky garrisons not on the port, and there aren't. So of course I'm like, oh, this is gonna work. At one point, of course, some aircraft bombed my submarines. As you can see, my western submarine is gone. And this guy is a derp. So I decide to wait because I don't want to have my naval division hit a unit. Because all my guys, if they have to actually face resistance on landing, they're gonna lose because they're not Marines. And I don't have any air support. Nor do I have any shore bombardment support. So of course my 5 divisions land east of Cherbourg. Right now there's some, as you can see, amazing Ukrainian Space Marines and Belgian Space Marines just holding out and keeping them busy. But they get forced away, and so now my troops are gonna have to do the job. But we are Vikings, we do not fear the naval invasion. And there we are, we take Cherbourg, and now we're pushing into that army that was just kind of holding out. Of course, because of my second group being late, I didn't manage to get the encirclement off on all those enemy troops. And actually, a lot of them seem to be CSA militias, Combined Syndicates of America volunteers. I mean, honestly, the Combined Syndicates of America would be so damn strong if they didn't just have such a obsession with just building militias. Anyway, well, actually, more like build half militias and half normal infantry, but then to actually do anything outside their borders, instead of sending in the infantry, they send the militias, which is a little weird to me. So now I'm ashore, and I can get all of my guys deployed in a matter of seconds, because that's just how Hearts of Iron IV works. And at this point, the French have lost, because the AI does not know how to deal with multiple fronts, especially if on one of those multiple fronts is a player actually micromanaging the armies. So at this point, it's just a matter of attacking into weak spots, confusing the hell out of the AI, and letting the Germans in the front line do the slow, you know, slow dying and the slow pushing. So my idea right now is to do what Penn does, and just kind of run to Nantes to cut off the I'm retarded. To cut off the Brennan Peninsula, but there isn't really that much left in Brittany, so there's just like a garrison. At least that shortens my front line quite a bit and allows me to concentrate more men in the push towards Paris and Bordeaux. But that's pretty fine, I mean. Considering that that main sort of stack that we're continuously beating back isn't really regaining its organization in any way. And, well, those are most of the troops that the Commune of France seems to have around here. We're doing quite okay. So now the enemy is retreating towards Lorient, but it's not really going to help them out. And there we are. We destroyed them. And now this infantry can come back and help out in the main push. There goes Serbia. That was very unfortunate for them. Yeah, because Romania, Serbia, and Greece just had no chance against the might of the Austrian Empire that was unified. And right now I'm just kind of rebuilding my front line. Of course, there's some French tanks that appear, which is pretty insane. I mean, I almost never see countries in Kaiserreich build tanks, which is really one of the, I think, problems with the mod, is that the warfare doesn't work as well as it does in regular Hearts of Iron 4. To be completely honest, you don't play Kaiserreich for the warfare. Oops, sorry. That was very, very rude. But it wasn't on purpose. It was forced on me by nature. Anyway, you don't really play Kaiserreich for the warfare. You play it for the politics. And I guess the AI is getting competent enough. Hopefully the next DLC / patch is gonna do more to help out for that. Because, I mean, I honestly have no idea why the AI is so incompetent. Like, it must be the equipment system that makes the AI so damn incompetent at building armies. And I have no, well, I actually know what makes them so incompetent at actually using the armies, which is the frontline system. Overall, it just seems like with the way Darkest Tower worked, it was just easier to program a decent AI. And then another thing that always kind of like weirds me out about Hearts of Iron 4 is that there's some countries that are just always incredibly incompetent. And then there are some countries that are decently competent. Like, for example, the United States and the Russians, ooh, you know, any form of Russians, either Soviets in regular vanilla, or, you know, Russians in like Kaiserreich, or even Russians in like Millennium Dawn, but Millennium Dawn is kind of different. They always just seem so damn incompetent. Like, they never really build good divisions. They never really, like, get involved. But, like, the Germans somehow are always just either competent or, like, somehow favored by divinity to win. Like, for example, sometimes they push through the Maginot Line and they just win that way. I have no idea how that's possible. And then when you get to Kaiserreich, like, for example, the Ukrainians are just like Jesus on earth. They always manage to help out Mitteleuropa and do all the naval invasions, do all the main pushes. It's just insane. And then for the Entente, like the Australians and the Canadians are ridiculously competent, but the Dominion of India is, like, very, very bad. I have no idea. It's just, obviously, it's just, I guess you could say, personal experience and anecdotal stuff. It's not actually how it works, but it's just what I always see. Like, for example, yeah, look at that, just the Commonwealth of Canada just somehow managing to invade. Oh, another country that's incredibly incompetent always is Spain. They never manage to do anything right, and Italy overall doesn't seem to be all that competent in Kaiserreich. But for example, like in vanilla, Italy is actually pretty absurd because they always somehow manage to naval invade like Britain and the United States. I have no clue. It's just weird how the AI works in this game. I'm not really commentating what's going on in the screen because it's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, the government of France just can't hold with the German tide coming, and now I finally managed to get enough artillery to actually upgrade my guys to 7-2 layout. So right now I'm in a pretty good position when it comes to basically everything. I mean, except the Air Force. I have a pretty good Navy. I have a very strong land army considering the size. And I'm getting a lot of factories from occupying France, because this time it's actually like, well, except for that part over here by Paris and Orléans, where it's actually the Germans. Some of this is actually going to me when it comes to occupations. So it's actually great. And at this point, what I'm thinking of doing is just surrounding the salient that's formed up west of Tours. And the best way to do that, I conclude, is to help out the Germans in pushing from Orléans south towards Limoges. I have no idea how to actually say that city. Limoges? Limoges? I have no clue. Anyway, what I want to do is break the French lines there and push south. And then hopefully that's going to provide me with opportunities to push east from La Rochelle, where my glorious AI has decided to not really deploy any troops. That's something that I really kind of dislike, and I kind of hope that they eventually solve. But even with the changes that they're making to the armies, well, actually, in some capacity, it seems like they're gonna make some good changes when it comes to that in the next patches. But overall, is just the way the AI doesn't really concentrate on any portion of the front line. I wish there was like a command where you could say concentrate here, and it would put, like, instead of, for example, like, I guess 2 divisions all over in every province of the front line, if, for example, it had enough to put 2 divisions. I wish what you could tell it is just like, well, you can put 1 division in like those areas, but then you concentrate onto a section of the front line, and there it puts free. That's kind of what I wish it would do. But there's no option to do that. I mean, there kind of is if you have, I believe, Together for Victory with the Blitz command, but I mean, whatever. So now, thankfully, the French decide to be incompetent, or rather the International decides to be incompetent as a whole. Because as you can see, they have like the international brigades over there of every kind of nation and type of unit that's just kind of held up in that province. And so I'm like, okay, since east of that there's like basically nothing, I'm just gonna break through there with the help of the Germans and just kind of run down and, yeah, get the encirclement off. Now, at this point, they're starting to escape, as they probably should, but I've got even more forces just pushing all over, so really, they've got nowhere to escape to. And the Germans are also pushing, which is good because they've also got motorized divisions, and actually, it seemed like they have a heavy tank division up north near Orléans. It's, of course, not full because, I don't know, but hey, it's interesting. And there we are. So we got the massive encirclement. And that pocket is filled to the brim with units. I can't really see too well because of the Sony Vegas window, but it must be around like 25 divisions or something. And as you can see, the front line is quite thinned out from that. And now we're just able to push down. We've got nothing that can oppose us, because our divisions at this point are just so incredibly superior to theirs. I don't know what is up with the AI not building artillery, but and now I'm just kind of like, what am I gonna research? What should I research? I mean, I guess it's okay to get the 2nd Field Hospital. Don't even have any trucks built. I might get some from the Commune capitulating, but who knows. So now I'm just gonna run for Bordeaux, which is of course the secondary capital for France after Paris falls. but it wasn't defended. And now I'm running towards Toulouse and trying to get the whole southwest under my control. Also, there's a nice pocket that's forming up, and I'm trying to close it. At this point, annoyingly, the French have actually reached a higher level of decryption, so I have no clue, like, what's there. And now Toulouse is mine. That guy can just head east and take Montpellier. And they capitulate, so there's no real need. Actually, don't really get a lot of loot from that. And now the peace treaty gets to the weird section. So, of course, I can just get the islands. Actually, I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit. Because peace treaties are really, like, boring as hell. Anyway, like, as you can see, like, for example, I'm just passing and nothing is happening. Finally, at some point, I believe that's the French Republic decides to annex the Commune of France, so yay, vive la France, vive Pétain, hurrah for the new French government. But the Germans, for example, aren't doing anything because for some reason they just don't have points. And so I'm like, oh well, I'll just take Britain. I mean, I'll just take more stuff from Britain because I'm like, you know, if I can at least grab like Scotland, I can get a puppet, and that's good. But nobody else decides to actually like get points or do things. Like for example, as you can see, Canada just isn't getting any points. I guess they just don't want to get Britain back, and so, you know, at this point, I'm just like, yeah, I can just get Britain. Which, to be fair, I mean, I didn't defeat Britain all by myself, but most of that was me. So, I'm like, yeah, I deserve it. This will, however, trigger one thing which will piss me royally off. And you'll see what that is. It's not really like a gameplay thing overall. So now, yeah, I've got everything. For some insane reason, the French haven't reclaimed like Savoy and Nice. So I believe the Commune of France is still alive there, which is hilarious. Anyway, the Socialist Republic of Italy is still around because of that. Yeah, I think that's the Commune of France right over there in Savoy. Anyway, at this point, I'm like, oh, cool. So of course, I've got a lot of factories, but that's gonna change once I puppet Britain. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll just get out of the French Republic. And so I get the partitioning of Britain, because of course I control Great Britain. And I'm like, well, dividing the island is what makes the most sense. But somehow, well, of course I see all my, well, I was about to say, all those guys are very handsome, but the Scottish guy really isn't. So I only miss Ireland to control all the British Isles. And now I see that for some fucking reason, Shetland and Orkney were given over to the bloody Scots. So, I mean, of course I only have a claim there, and not a core, but that just always pisses me the hell off. At least I still have the focus completed, so I can still proclaim Greater Norway later, once I require. It's just kind of annoying, though. So now I'm actually incredibly strong, because I've got England as a puppet. And England is going to be quite useful. Scotland also should be quite useful. I mean, they probably have some decent industry and some okay manpower. And that's the end. Yeah, sorry for the brusque interruption, and sorry also for the coughing. But I thank y'all for watching. I hope you've enjoyed. I hope you're not getting creeped out by this black screen, and I'll see you soon.